Welcome back. So today we are going to be looking into a worm bin. This worm bin is a worm bin that I believe is populated by European Nightcrawlers. And if you watched the series on A Worm Farmer's Diary, you will actually recognize this worm bin as the one from which we took our vermicompost. So as you can see, I've covered it over with leaves on the top, but underneath we have super rich vermicast, super rich castings, and I'm actually going to take you in for a closer look because the corners are just, they're unbelievable. So let's get you in for a closer look. Look at that. Look at just how nice and it looks like. It looks pillowy soft, and it is. It's very nice and granular. Not overly granular, but it's just nice and soft. So many good things to say about what we got out of this bin as far as our castings. And of course, we've got some worms in there as well. You can see some movement right over there. There goes one little guy trying to get away. They're not big fans of the spotlight. And since we took from this bin, and it's been a considerable amount of time since I last fed it, I wanted to go ahead and give it a big feeding to really get the population back to growing, back to eating, because this bin looks largely finished as far as the products in it. It looks like it's largely a lot of just castings. So with that being the case, I'm going to add a large portion of feeding, and I'm gonna basically fill this bin up. So I'm digging deep into the corners. You can see there's still some whole eggshell. Again, this was one of the things that I learned from my experience there doing the harvesting, my first harvesting, which was that putting in eggshells in any way other than ground up is not really ideal. So good little learning lesson, and obviously there are going to be more takeaways each time I do this, but that was definitely one from the last time. So in today's feeding, I'm actually going to be adding in a very large item, and you might think it's rather funny, but the last time I tried adding in something like this, it did not go very well, but I think it will go a little bit differently this time. I'm adding in, yes, an entire pumpkin, and this is no small pumpkin. This pumpkin takes over, width-wise, takes over nearly the entire bin, and you can see that it's turned. You can see that it's turned black on the outside, which I don't think will be a problem. But I'm really excited about the microbes, and the worms will take care of that, no problem. Now, obviously, with adding this much green material, I'm going to also need to add quite a few browns. So one of the things I actually plan to do is I'm actually going to, I've already kind of busted the pumpkin open, and look at that, you can see the growth there of what might be, I don't know, but we got some white fuzz there for sure. So that's a good sign. And while this is going to be moist, it's nowhere near as moist as the watermelon I tried to add in my how not to feed a worm bin video. So I'm really excited about this. As you can tell, the pumpkin is mostly intact. We actually got this back in the fall in October at a local pumpkin festival. So I'm really looking forward to being able to put that to the test in the worm bin. The worms are going to absolutely love this. They're big fans of things like pumpkin, so look forward to the checks in the future videos. And the brown material that I'm going to use is one that we've talked about a lot frequently, or lately rather, and that is coffee chaff. So because of the amount of moisture that may exist in the pumpkin, I'm actually just gonna pour a large amount of coffee chaff just directly into this bin, right over that pumpkin. We're basically gonna fill the bin to the brim. So I used everything that was in this mortar tray. Just emptied the whole thing out. And all of that is now in the bin. So we will be seeing just how the worms do processing all of that. So no small amount. As you could tell, the bin was, I would say, close to about halfway full, and now it's nearly full. So yeah, it should be pretty interesting to see how this goes. With brown materials, you would also typically want to make sure that they're fairly moist, but I don't feel like that'll be a problem, especially in light of the decomposing pumpkin. I imagine that the moisture from that will get absorbed, but I'm going to go ahead and just add a little bit of insurance moisture with the spray bottle just on the surface. Just to keep it as moist as we can. So, and you can see, just even from the spray bottle, you can see how light the coffee chaff is. Just a little spray can get it blowing all around. So it is a very light substance, and I'm really curious to see how it's going to do in an established worm bin. Again, the microbes here in this bin there should be a really good population of microbes, and I think that will help with both the decomposition of the pumpkin and also with the integration of the coffee chaff into it. So very excited to come back and check this out. We'll keep tabs on this and see how it does overall. So all in all, I'm really excited to see just exactly what's going to happen. And that's one of the neat things about having a bin like this, is that, you know, we learn through trying things, right? And if this pumpkin ends up being way too much, we'll learn that and we'll add more brown materials. And in my opinion, I feel like worms are fairly resilient overall. The whole population, the bin, worm bin, I find them to be fairly resilient, so I don't think that this will be an absolute colossal failure. And is it really a failure if we learn something from it? I don't think so. So this bin I have previously, or I now refer to as my Firstfruits bin, since it is the bin from which I did my first harvesting. So we'll be referring to it as such from here on out. This is the bin of the Firstfruits. So the Firstfruits bin is now holding a pumpkin and a lot of coffee chaff. I'm really looking forward to checking in on this. The worms seem to be in a pretty good state, since they're already kind of living in their castings, which again, you know, that there's a good bit of microbes down in there. So I'm really excited to see how they're going to take to this and how it's going to break down. You can see some of the pumpkin still sticking out over the top, and that's the way we're going to leave it now, and we'll see you next time we check in on this bin. Bye-bye from Firstfruits.